Good morning. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Susan Berman, and I'm the Safety Program Manager for Allied Construction Industries, ACI. We're happy to be with you and bring our panel of executives and safety professionals together today. We will be discussing the challenges and looking at possible solutions to working in construction under current guidelines and restrictions related to COVID-19. Although many of you have been working throughout the last few months, next week we will begin to see the nation slowly opening back up. For the next hour, we will provide the opportunity for you to hear from some of Cincinnati's top industry leaders on what to expect. So before we begin, I'd like to remind you to please remain muted throughout the Zoom meeting and use the chat feature at the bottom middle of your screen if you have a question for one of our panelists. If your question is for someone specific, please note that with your question, and we'll do our best to cover all of them in the hour that we have together today. If we are not able to cover all the questions today, please know that this webinar is being recorded and we will send answers along with the recording of this webinar next week. If you have a private or company-specific question for one of our panelists, go ahead and contact me directly at ACI and I can facilitate a connection for you. Now, I would like to introduce today's 6 panelists. Each of the individuals listed on your screen are in positions or have responsibilities to provide a unique perspective to working with their teams during this challenging time. We have Tony Aponte with CHC Fabricating, Eric Bouchard with Monarch Construction Company, Dave Canelio with John R. Jurgensen Company, Steve Eder with Messer Construction, Phil O'Brien with Turner Construction, and Drew Williams with the Great Lakes Construction Company. We're now going to transition into the first group of questions for our panelists. These questions have been submitted by attendees in advance or were posed to the panelists or to ACI over the last few weeks. We'll start by directing this first question to Phil O'Brien and Steve Eder. For current ongoing projects, have owners generally been willing to grant time or put together extensions to account for potential disruptions due to COVID-19? Steve or Phil, if you want to begin.
I'll take it. Good morning, all. So for the most part, our projects are on schedule, on their original schedules, but it's being threatened all the time. But, you know, really, has any owner ever granted time extensions willingly? You know, it's no. They're going to be resistant to this, and whether it's COVID-19 or whatever the reason. So the contractual language and following that, the contract we have with our owners and how it addresses delays beyond our control, which can and really is. So the terms of the contract are extremely important, and proper notices, giving notices of what's going on to the owner and documenting that. You know, we're all trying to get through it right now, but and doing our best. But somewhere down the road, we're going to have to quantify things that happen. So that documentation is so important. And of course, the restart going back now is going to help things. But I just feel it's our due diligence to make sure we do everything we can to mitigate these delays for our owners. They expect it. It's very important to them. So we just need to work together, do our due diligence, and look at every way we can to prevent these delays any more than we can.
Steve, I couldn't have said it any better than what you said there. You've got the contractual side between the client and the GC or the CM. You also have the contracts between the contractors and the CM and GC. So I advise everyone to make sure that they're looking at those contracts for, just as we will for our clients, how you're notifying your prime contractors if you're a sub or a sub of a sub, and what contractual rights you have. The other thing that we're doing extensively is making sure we're capturing, as those costs are expended, we capture it under a different phase code so it doesn't get mingled into the original contract cost associated with the project. So we're at least be able to establish a true cost from the moment that it started. It appears most people are looking at the week of March 16th is when everything really kicked in and don't know what the end impact is. So look at your contracts, look at your terms and conditions, be willing to give notices. We've had some from many contractors, and we've obviously our clients for it. So I will reiterate that clients acknowledge it. It's not over, nor do we have an action to put our hands around the cost. Can only say that we're going to pursue it and see where it goes. That's just something that we didn't see, even though the contracts have these type of languages in there. How enforceable will it be? I've been watching and looking a lot of different articles across the United States on contract law and what's going on with contract law. And from Illinois to California, Illinois seems to be the first group of attorneys who have been aggressive in the contract law. I hope that helped everybody.
Wonderful. Oh, Susan, you're still muted. Are you okay? All right. I think, are you good to go, Susan?
That's good.
Okay.
Else on the panel wish to comment on the first question about onboarding projects and owners? Okay.
Susan, you're still breaking up a little bit, so I'll go ahead with the next question if that's okay. Okay. So the next question, sorry, technology, you gotta love it. The next set of questions is directed to any of our safety professionals, and it is a two-part question. So part one is, what are some of the innovations you have implemented or heard others using to ensure the safety of your field workers? And to add to that, what additional steps do you foresee taking as the nation slowly starts to reopen?
So I can talk a little bit about this. One quick question, Erica, did we get Tony? Is he?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, he's on.
So you ask about innovation, and innovation, from my opinion, is different than compliance. So there is a lot of controls that we know to help with compliance and to help defeat this disease to the best of our ability. Innovation, I don't know if I personally feel there's anything super innovative. I think Amazon is doing some pretty interesting things, but really they're just implementing the social distancing controls, the use of plexiglass partitions. What I would consider to be innovative would be a hard hat that would be able to determine people's temperature so that you could, mitigate the responsibility of having to take your temperature. But if you look at the hierarchy of controls for COVID, we've kind of taken a few steps back. Where PPE was usually the last stitch effort, administrative controls and personal protective equipment have become our most reliant controls, what we're relying on the most. So, I don't know how innovative that is, or, it's more of just a compliance approach, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Eric on that one. I think moving forward, innovation is going to be the new key to this one. Thinking about job tasks, a lot of the stuff that you're thinking about is how means and methods can change to comply with the COVID-19 requirements and to keep the safety and health of your workers in mind with that. PPE, yeah, it's been the go-to with face coverings, face shields. Again, innovation is going to be coming out of this. And as we move forward to think about the next wave, or think about what can we do to better protect our workers on the job site, in our fabrication shops, at our facilities. And that's us together, coming together with ideas to what's going to work, because everybody's trades and everybody's means and methods is totally different, from a general contractor standpoint to a subcontractor to a steel contractor to electrician. So means and methods is going to be the innovation as we move forward over the next couple of weeks, and then thinking about the big picture of moving forward in our industry.
Yeah, one other thing that would be pretty innovative is, as an industry, if we started to focus more on resiliency and kind of moving our thought processes to the capacity to monitor conditions, anticipate possible futures, and then take adaptive actions. So studying of resilient engineering, and one thing that you'll see why the medical field is being hit so hard with this is because they're so efficient. So the only issue with resiliency is its natural enemy is efficiency. So to be more resilient would be almost be a little bit less efficient, because you need some buffer there. You need some room to maneuver. You need capacity to act. So
Eric, those are excellent points. Real quick, this pandemic came at everyone during projects that were ongoing, so we're adapting to where we're at. If we start thinking about the prefabrication pieces and the labor-intensive work, hard to do exterior walls with masons and people on lifts that have to put in glass panels together. You need the tradesmen on the inside of the wall, tradesmen on the outside of the wall, and they're going to be within that 6-foot distance. How do you put in stairs? I watch CHC how they have to work closely knit together. Whereas now, can we start thinking about, can those stairs be built with connectors on them? And is there a different type of connection that can be designed so that they're more prefab, they're more slipped in and designed, and then of course then done our submittals correctly. But this one, things are already going on a lot of these projects. I'll see. But going forward, as Eric said, if we can design out some of the labor-intensive closeness of our trades, I think that's going to be an opportunity we can continue to keep these pandemics at bay.
You're correct, Bill. Like I said, just innovative design builds when it comes to future projects. Like right now, all the projects are ongoing, so you're keeping these projects going. Like I said, that's why the innovation part of it it's hard to do right now, because of the fact that we're trying to keep things moving. But again, to agree with you, like the design build's going to be the most innovative way to combat situations like this.
yeah, everybody's adapting and improvising at the same time. So, until we kind of get a better understanding, taking control of the data that we're receiving and then using it is the only way to push forward. But the data is real time. It's not like we have time to really sit on it and study it. So everybody's adapting and improvising at the same time, which is interesting from a world perspective, an industry perspective, and, from my perspective, a construction lens.
All very good and informative answers. And it kind of leads us into our next question. Looking at the big picture, what do you see for the future of in-person training, internal meetings? What is the company going to look like? And has your company begun using distance learning or workforce development opportunities? And that's to anyone.
I think you're looking at it right now. More meetings like this. Like I said, here at CHC, we've been doing all our weekly planning safety meetings via this kind of format. And I think technology is going to have to come into play a lot more with situations like this. So you're going to be, a lot of companies are going to be looking at how they work from home, how they do their meetings, because when this all came out and everybody had to go to the virtual meetings and virtual trainings, everybody was trying to play catch up. I'll admit that, because our business as in construction, manufacturing is a personal business. It's, hey, let's you and I stand shoulder to shoulder and look at these prints, or hey, let's go and look at this job site together so we can both get our eyes sets on it. Whereas now we're saying, hey, do you have the set of prints in front of you at your house, and I have them at my house? So construction is one of those always been a personal business. Come together, figure out plans, and solve the problems. Now you got to find new ways to do that.
Eric,
I'd like to add, yes, it certainly has caused everyone to bring about the online platforms, and most of us have been for quite some time for training, continual education, and there's stuff we've been using called micro learnings for craft and managers, and just a 3 to 4 minute best practices on a task or a safety procedure done by our own people. But it's so nice because it's just on your iPhone, and you can look at it at your convenience instead of going all at one time to a classroom or taking the training, and seems to be more effective. But I agree with Tony. You know, this is a people business, and it's hard to replace seeing people face to face, and we just have to do this working safely with the whatever's the right protocol to do at the time, and you know, CEC and our governors. But you know, we all miss individual meetings and development with employees. You know, the one-on-one lunches and stuff that are so meaningful are hard. You can still do, but instead of over a lunch, you got to be 6 foot apart, and it's tough. And so I think we will get back to it. And but the online programs and using that technology.
Great. Okay. I'm still having that problem here. So sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Dave, I think you may have had something to add to that a minute ago.
No, not really. Just, you know, concur with what everyone's saying. And I think this is the new norm, these types of meetings, these types of trainings. There's going to be a lot less in-person type meetings. It's going to be more distance type learning. You know, even we're looking at things moving forward. We've already started building things for putting different controls in place for our winter learning and development that we do every year with all the companies and all the employees. We've already made the decision moving forward that for, you know, 2020 and going into 21, it's going to be all electronic and distance learning. So we're already starting to prepare, you know, safety presentations, different things such as that for our employees moving forward. So I agree with what everyone's saying, that this is going to be the new norm.
You know what, just quickly, I think whatever that technology of the GoPros that are out there for people on surfboards and things like that, the GoPros on hard hats, where the design team's not going to fly in from Atlanta or from New Jersey, and the mason and the drywall teams and the CHCs are trying to work out a detail on a stair tower, and to have the GoPros on and be able to point to it, show the dimension bust, which we all know engineers and architects come up with the right numbers all the time, and we don't have that, but let's skip that. But as we work through details on the jobs, and you have the people on the field, the use of these GoPros and really solid way of them communicating that picture via these computers, I think is going to, it's going to have to start taking hold, because people aren't going to travel like they used to, and people aren't going to come in for monthly draw meetings. So they want to see what's going on in the project.
Yeah, I do think that in-person training, where it does have merit, may have been a little bit of a crutch for us in construction, to keep us from advancing in the learning management systems and distance learning. You know, having to personally travel a few hours to do a 45-minute training never really seemed like it was the most efficient. It is that I am there in person to watch people and to help them. But, you know, from my personal perspective, we talked about this briefly before we got started. You know, I spend a lot of time in transit to get to these places where I would be more than happy to, you know, distance learn from the, you know, the comfort of my office and save all those hours that I spend on the road, which would greatly reduce the risk associated with travel and things of that nature. So I did talk a little bit about, you know, this question in my own notes on, you know, learning management systems and exploring this evolution prior to COVID. But it was hard. It was hard to get that kind of change. It was hard to get that momentum.
So looking at your workforce development, looking again to the future and filling the pipeline, considering the importance of workforce development, how do you see this pandemic affecting the construction industry's efforts to continue filling the pipeline? What do you guys, gentlemen, see for that?
I think personally, I think it's going to certainly hurt the trades. We're working on about 75% of tradespeople on the projects right now because there are people who just aren't going to come in to a job site and be exposed to COVID-19 next to another trade worker. They don't know where they came from, they don't know how they got to work, they don't know if they're following the social discipline, just all that stuff. So you already have a reduced workforce now. Come May 4th, when everybody goes gangbusters, that doesn't mean that someone's just going to decide to go do something else away from coming to a large job site with 1,000 people on it, or even a job site with 10 people on it, and realize sometimes the smaller job sites have a more confined space than they have on larger job sites. So it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, one of the things that this time of year, with high school kids graduating from high school, the young men and women that looking to get into trades, usually this time of year is when you're hitting those trade schools, hitting those high schools, putting your name out there, the trades out there. So you're getting that pipeline coming into trade for the summer months and for coming into the fall months. Right now, we can't do that. We don't have the contact with these trade schools because of everything being shut down, kids at home learning, e-learning. So I think going to be definitely a detriment to the industry going into the end of 2020.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little different approach that, you know, I feel, you know, there's that demand was there before and it'll be there, and it's great careers and trades and management and administration, and but it's just it is going to be different, like everyone is talking about, different ways, and the need to build the buildings and all for our customers is always going to be there. And we just have to find ways that it's going to be safe to do so. And I think we're doing a pretty good job. We're all learning every day. There's no question about it. That whole prefabrication of what we can do in controlled areas will be extremely helpful. It's a long time coming, but hopefully this will accelerate that. And I think in the long term, we're still always going to have the challenges of workforce development that our industry always has, but it's we'll get through this, and I don't think it's going to be a huge decline. So I guess maybe I'm more optimistic, but trying to look ahead on it.
Wonderful. Now, the next question we have, I'd like to direct this at the beginning to Drew Williams and Dave Canilio. Dave, so sorry if I did not say your last name correctly. But with increased attention to being paid to mental health and wellness of workers, what are some of the ways your companies plan to support workers having trouble adapting to this changing environment and the new norm that we have ahead of us?
Who you want to go first, Erica? Do you want me or?
Go for it, Dave.
Well, we've been a little fortunate, I think. We haven't, as seasonal as we are, we really haven't experienced a lot of issues with being able to bring people back. We've been hesitant and we've been bringing less people back on recalls than we normally do at this time of the year. But we've been doing some different things. Actually, my team, we are reaching out to, we get a list. I just got one this morning of recalls that are coming back within the organization. And the safety team reaches out to each person on that list. And we go over what we're doing as an organization, how we're protecting them, what controls we've put in place. And then I'm reaching out to each of the supervisors and having a discussion with them about expectations and how we want things to look on the job site. And I think that's been very positive. It seems to have put a lot of people at ease when we start letting them know what we're doing. And then some other things that, that we're doing, we're trying to promote some positive stuff. We've been doing a lot of stuff with the, hashtag in this together from the job sites and things like that. We've started it's called a COVID hair competition, so whatever, and of course that doesn't affect me, but as that, we're having employees send pictures in and we're having people, take pictures of before and after, and we started a little competition with that, just trying to promote some positive things. And I think it's been very positive with all the employees.
Yeah, I agree. Keeping with the positive and making light of this serious situation, promoting a healthy lifestyle, whether that's getting enough sleep at home, eating healthy, trying to get some exercise, continuing to develop that sense of community, whether that's at work or with friends and family. Like we've mentioned multiple times, it's hard to do that in person now with the 6-foot rule and limited on gatherings. But I know, with Easter, the last couple weekends ago, I know people did Zoom meetings and things regarding those. Making sure everyone's aware of what type of employee assistance programs and health insurance options are available regarding mental health professionals and counseling. I know we post memes and things on our job sites down here in Cincinnati regarding the 6-foot distance and washing your hands, just trying to bring a little humor into this bit of a morbid time, and providing clear and concise information to everyone so they don't totally feel like they're out on an island. And just having a little bit of information and knowing where the ship is headed, I think puts people's minds at ease and limits some of that stress.
I love hearing the dog in the background. It brings definitely some normalcy to this. And Dave, I love the COVID hair. Ironically, my husband actually allowed me to cut his hair and his beard last week. It was kind of fun. Shifting a little bit real quickly, for the ACI Safety Committee chairs, Eric and Tony, 2-part question. Question number 6. We've heard from many safety professionals that basic compliance has been accepted. However, there are some issues related to workers following new guidelines, such as social distancing, not sharing tools, etc., so on and so forth. What have you noticed about an employee's compliance to restrictions? Are you getting resistance? And is there anything else that you would like to share about that topic?
I'll start off there, Eric. I guess, yeah, this is not norm for the construction industry. I mean, like I said, 6-7 weeks ago, before all this came in play, everyone was going about the jobs, building buildings, taking pride in their work. That's one thing too in this business. It's a very pride industry. It's where people like to see what they do. Now you're putting limitations on how they're doing their stuff. You're totally changing the thinking of it. So there has been some resistance. But again, number one thing I can say is get feedback from your crews. Ones that are doing it every day, get them involved. Because if they're part of helping make new policies, help make new means and method plans, they'll buy in more. But if you just come out there and say, hey, wear this face mask, wear this face shield, and be productive and get your stuff done, it doesn't work that way. You have got to include your crews. And then when you do get some kind of resistance, ask that person about their opinion. Ask what can we do to help them, because it helps with the mental health part of it. It helps with them fulfilling that pride of going to work, building buildings, and getting home to their family healthy and safe. So like to getting that feedback and let's incorporate them in all this, make them feel part of it, because they are.
So I personally have experienced about a 50-50 with our field employees. It kind of, it's taken us years to implement 100% gloves. It was not very easy to even implement hard hats when we had to implement hard hats and high visibility clothing. And then at the drop of a hat, we have to implement all of these new control measures and personal protective equipment requirements. So you're going to experience resistance with the governor's directive that face coverings are now 100% required. You're going to experience resistance. It's concerning from in my opinion, because what the employees and the field workers, to change their behavior, they have to understand that this is both personal and probable. So those that haven't really been affected by COVID-19 are less likely to take it as serious as those who has been touched by it, even though the science is sound and it's there. So, if just in our personal lives, going to the store, what would you say is the amount of people wearing masks in, large areas and in the grocery when you're supposed to, it's recommended to wear a mask? I would say, in my opinion, I see about 10-20% compliance in, just in the public. So from a construction worker standpoint, it's going to be concerning when we go 100% mask, even though the science is there and it's sound and it makes sense. Convincing people that they have to do it is always an issue.
Exactly. So the last kind of question that we have planned for just structured questions, this is directed to Steve and Phil, and I actually have a follow-up question from one of our attendees. But as representatives of major construction companies, can you recommend any unique best practices or other adaptations for the immediate future of our industry?
One of the things that we are in a corporate world, we have a call every Friday with our CEO. We have about 10,000 people on the call. One of the things that he's really asking every project as fast as they possibly could to get hot water hand washing stations, as many of them as you can economically get in, as fast as you can get them in, and just really, as Tony said, really taking the time to say, hey, all the tradespeople, we've got hand washing stations on this floor, this floor, and this floor. We're looking out for you. We're providing as much of the PP as we can, the sanitation, waiting on the buck hoists, things like that. I think it's just a continual recognition that this is going to be with us for a while. It's just the way it's going to be. Everybody's adapting. Eric said it on the fly. We were asked to adapt like that. We have to. We need to. One of the stories I have is we had two tradespeople on the buck hoist actually, of course, it was a lift, a JLG lift. It was a 4-foot bucket. And we had just come through morning kickoff, morning stretch and flex, safety for the day. And I came down out of the building and I walked over and I saw them up to 8 guys. And I know the people, they've been on the job for a year now. And I get there maybe once a week. What's going on? You guys just went up into a lift together and you don't even have your face covered. You don't have your plastic shields on. Come on, guys. And it just is a matter of habit. Like Eric said, it took a long time to get the PPE, the high vis, everything else. But we just need to do it a shorter time. One of the things that I really try to get the message to them heart to heart, one-on-one, and I hope they listen, is you're out in a very public environment on this particular project, and people are watching these essential workers working, and they see us not paying attention to it. There are 98 people on the job that the health department come out, or OSHA's gonna come out and shut us down. And so there'll be 98 people not getting a paycheck that week because people see not practicing the social distancing, doing things. So that's what we have to try to just, it's pretty standard. We just have to get that into our psyche. But we also have to listen to them. And I like, that's what Tony says. When you go out to these stretch and flex, ask everybody, are we doing everything? Or do you feel safe? Are there things you should want, and what can we provide?
I'd like to add, those are all excellent points. Phil, you know, you're talking about the hot water and hand washing station. Those type of engineered tools to make it easier for the workers to comply is always going to be well received, and we'll get better outcomes. And as long as we're always trying to come up with that and think about the boots on the ground and that are exposed to the risk, and how it can be easier for them to follow the social distancing and wash their hands and wear masks and all. The more we can engineer that to make it easy for them, the better. One of the things that we've done is you know, everybody has a JSA, a job site safety analysis of before they start their work, of planning their work and who's going to do what and what you need to do it safely. And we've just changed those to incorporate what's needed for COVID-19 and to identify, man, if you do have to do something within the 6 foot of your coworker, so what is the right PPE and what is your plan going in before you get started? And do you have what you need to do that? And so that we can all plan and make it easier for them to do. You know, another thing that's happening is the daily huddles and getting everybody together. You know, we can't do that anymore, but using technology to do that. And one of our biggest jobs, we get about 400 people there every day. And you know, we have an app that everybody has on their iPhone for just called Alert Media, and using that technology to reach out to everybody, to let them know safety alerts, concerns, job site communications, messages, emergency situations. They all have it. It also tracks who's on the job, and it's using that technology that we have been doing it, but using it to allow us to make sure that we're complying with the governor's orders and being safe for all our people. All different tools that we need to continually improve and look at to go forward.
Had to unmute myself. So the question from an audience, again, this is directed probably more towards Phil and Steve. It's a very detailed question, but how is Messer and Turner, how are Messer and Turner addressing the use of how many people are allowed in a scissor lift on job sites? Pre-COVID, it was acceptable for 2 people to be within 1 lift. Now it is doubtful that the 6-foot space is available. If subcontractors must, if subcontractors must use 2 lifts in lieu of 1, is the additional cost for a lift an acceptable change request?
Great question. I saw that pop up there. And I
Okay.
if you have to be within 6 foot of the social distancing and you've done your PTP, you've addressed everything about being next to someone, which is you have to have the proper face mask, you have to have the plastic, you have to have the gloves on, you have to follow all those procedures as you go through. It's when you don't follow those procedures, when someone stops you and says, you know, you were warned, or you got this, come on, sit down, let's talk about re-educating, re-training, re-coaching you on what you need to do. So number one, we haven't stopped any 2 people from being inside of a lift within 6 foot, as long as they are properly managing that 6 foot distance. When you're within 6 foot, you can't just pull up a do-rag. You have to use the proper mask. I mean, it's in our policies now. You have to have the face shield over the top of that mask. And it's hot and it's bothered. I have no idea how we're going to be doing all this in come summertime. Hopefully things progress and the vaccine comes out and we're a little bit more looser on that. But summer wears on, we'll start thinking about how we're going to create these masks and these face masks. And I don't have the answer. All I know is it's going to be on our doorstep pretty quick.
So I agree, and that's what I was talking about, engineering a safe way to do it and having a plan to do it. And so, and no, we don't want 2 lifts. We can't afford that. But we can find ways, just the same way the medical field does it. When they're up against patients and need to be close, we need to do the same thing. And using not only the face mask, but the face shield also at times like that.
Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. This is for, I think, everyone. From a vendor perspective, and please, if you guys have questions, please at the bottom of your screen, use the chat feature. We're going to be going into Q&A right now. But this is from a vendor perspective, what requirements are you putting on installers, project managers, and sales individuals from your suppliers? So if anyone wants to tackle that one first.
I'm going to say the same requirements we require of everyone, and so you know you're making the cold calls, stopping by the trailer. Well, you're going to get screened, and it's best to find ways where it's not face to face like we've been used to, but we talked through the on the phone, emails, the technology, and Zoom, you name it, because the vendors and everybody on the job sites, in the office, is going to have to follow the same protocol all together.
Anybody else want to add to that before we continue? Okay. So some last minute questions that kind of came in. What are you, as our panelists, doing to take care of yourselves so you can be the best servant leader for your team? What are you guys doing to take care of yourselves? It's a lot for you as leaders to be in these positions and making these decisions. So what are you doing to take care of yourselves?
I'll start off on that one. Put myself in their shoes. Like I said, asking them what they need, what works best for them out in the field. Like I said, the face coverings is, like, when this all came out, there's so many different kind of face coverings, different models, different materials, different styles. It's not going to be a one-stop shop. So I've been trying different ones on. Make sure the fact that, and then ask them what do they need, and giving them options when it comes to different kind of PPE. Because like I said, if you want somebody to wear a face covering for an 8-hour day, you got to make sure it's something that's comfortable to them, and make sure the fact that you understand what they need. So myself, I'm just putting myself in their shoes and make sure the fact that as a union, I'm a Union Iron worker and I'm a safety director now, but I want to make sure the fact that, hey, I know what you need and get that feedback and just putting myself in their shoes.
Yeah, on what Tony said is one of the things that we're doing is on Monday mornings, we're having a senior management meeting, 9 o'clock every Monday morning. And one of the things we're doing is we're sharing best practices. Certain job sites are doing some things better. The job site in Northern Kentucky has found a vendor who has some different safety glasses, but guess what? Aren't fogging up as much when you're covering your nose, and they vent differently. So we ordered 50 of them. We've handed them out to different trades on the project. Say, hey, try these. Give us some feedback. Let's see where this is going, and then and try to see if that's the best practice, and then share that. And then obviously people in that project will go get them and take care of them. So as we see that, at the flip of the switch, if there's a great practice, let's implement it right now. We're not gonna wait on it. We're doing that quite a bit, and that's just sharing information so that every contractor gets that opportunity to pick up on the best practice.
And a little add-on, a little bit of what Phil has said is also communication between the general contractors and subcontractors coming together. Hey, let's communicate. What do you see on your job sites? What can we work? What can we come together as an industry to move forward? It's not that we're in this together. Make sure the fact that we're communicating.
So I know from my perspective, that's exactly what helps me and helps others is really the collaborative attitude and approach of what we're dealing with everybody just working together, because no, we don't know. This is new. Listening to our folks that are experiencing it and just trying to work together to that. Hey, we're going to get through this. You know, heck, we got through Y2K, right? You know, and today it's COVID-19. I think our whole industry and our people are very resilient, and but reinforcing that collaborative attitude to each other, and helping each other, and stressing that I know motivates me, motivates others, and it just helps a general progression to we're going to do this.
Wonderful. We've had a couple more questions come in from the audience. The first is, my understanding was that DeWine changed the face mask requirement to encourage, not require, and requirements are directed by employers. Do you think face masks will still be required since they are not required by DeWine?
Erica, I can't comment to that. That just came out, I think, yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I have not gotten direction from our corporate or how we're going to handle that. That's okay. Tomorrow or this afternoon or tomorrow to look at that. I guess I encourage everybody, if you can wear a face mask, wear it. If you can pull your do-rag up, do it. Particularly when you start coming up on a group, if you start getting on buckboys, going up stair towers. Maybe we start making stair towers one way. It's passing of the two people passing, like a lot of the Kroger stores go one way. So at least you're coming up behind someone and you're not coming face to face. That's if you just think about the practice of not crossing over, there's no barrier. It's just important. But whatever the question is, I see it up here. I wish I had comment, but I can't just.
Yeah, I agree with Phil. It's still a little unclear as the governor has released a statement, redacted the statement, re-released the statement. So we are going to just kind of see where it actually lands, and then most likely mobilize on Monday to concur or to help pursue whatever the actual statement ends up being, or the requirement ends up being.
By no means is my response critical of the way this is going down, because he, along with other people, are flying by the seat of their pants. The entire nation is, the entire world is. So we'll just adapt as we go, and hopefully people come along for the ride and put things in place as soon as we know what the best practice is.
I would imagine that it will become a requirement to wear a mask, because wearing a mask makes sense and it helps. So if I had to bet, it will be a requirement if it's not already, but it's still kind of muddy. So, that's why when I talked about a question earlier, I mentioned it. There will be resistance, there will be pushback. And, everybody wearing a mask is most likely going to become the new normal. So we'll have to address those issues very much at the point of operation.
And whether it's ends up a requirement or it's always strongly recommended, we know that. So we all have to get those masks. So I'm looking forward to all the different masks that are homemade, because there's not enough out there, and looking forward to seeing what everybody comes up with.
There may be some kind of fun challenge coming out from ACI very soon with your masks, so please tune into our social media. We have one last question, and then we're going to wrap up, because I want to make sure that we are very respectful of everyone's time today. But we as a manufacturer and provider of signage and equipment, etc., are following strictly with the governor's mandates and recommendations to ensure the safety and well-being of our employees and valued clients. Are you providing exact protocol to all of your suppliers, or is that available on your various websites should there be additional requirements?
I can answer for Turner Construction, and yes, we do. We sit down, we go over them. We also acknowledge from the contractors and vendors. It's published, it's on the job site. It's part of the Procore site for everyone that has access to it. That's only for the architects, design teams, vendors, everyone to look at it. So yes, we share it. We want to bring everybody up to speed as fast as possible, including everything from third-party testing agencies to inspectors. That's a little different now. The inspection agencies have a different approach. So trying to get them to realize that it's in the best interest of everyone.
All right, so just as we kind of wrap up, we've got a few minutes left. I would like to ask each of our panelists to, just for a few seconds, what are your final comments for today? What is one thing that you want to leave with all of our guests today? And Drew, can we start with you today?
Yeah, if my dog doesn't go crazy. I think the key to all of this is just stay positive, make sure everyone is communicating with each other. Just know that we're going to get past this. We're in kind of a new stage of new normalcy, which has been talked about a lot today, but staying positive, keeping that community approach, and making sure that everyone is doing well and has what they need, and being as best of a resource and a leader in this time of need as possible.
Dave, you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I would, the common theme, I was jotting notes down as we were going through all this, and the common theme here seems to be communication. And I think that is the key moving forward, is to continue communicating. You've got to communicate with your team, everyone within the organization. This is changing quickly and multiple times, in a 24-hour period, as we've experienced. So I the takeaway, I think, with everyone is communication, and continue to communicate with everyone in the organization, over communicate as much as possible.
Absolutely. Tony, what about you?
And communication, that's what we've been talking about a lot. And then I just want to add on feedback from all perspectives, from the first year apprentice to that seasoned foreman to the project managers on your job. Just getting feedback from everybody and see what can we get to make us better, and also that communication between the different trades and different general contractors, from the general contractor down to the subcontractors, that coming together, feedback on each other, help each other build on this and get better.
Absolutely. Eric, what about you?
Just, looking at COVID-19, be careful of kind of referring to it as like how we deal with normal disasters, because unlike a storm, COVID-19, it really lives in human activity. So it means the way we think about and manage this disaster really truly needs to be different. And until we can honestly test, track, and isolate new cases, we have to be careful about giving false impressions of getting past peaks. And even though we're going back to work, we don't want that false sense of security, of thinking that, we've weathered the storm, because the storm truly lies in human activity. So, just think about it from that perspective.
Thank you. Steve, what about you?
I'm going to go back to just how resilient our whole industry and all of us are, that we can deal with this, and it's just focusing on that attitude, that collaborative attitude, and it's almost more psychological than it is physical. It truly is both, and it takes both, and so just focusing on our core business of working together, serving our customers, our companies, our employees, and ourselves, on a daily basis.
Perfect. And Phil, last but not least.
I couldn't say anything better than what Eric just said. That this COVID-19 is about human interaction, about social distancing. It's carried by the humans. It's not carried by the structures we build, the roads we build. We're the people that are building those particular projects, but it takes everybody in one space to do it. So being conscious every single day of your habits and all the things that you did in the past you can't do now, and you don't want to do now. And if you're your brother's keeper, you want everybody to continue to work and not have an incident on the job when the job shuts down, because it did come on, and it's going to happen, and you can't cry about it. We just have to keep moving it, but be disciplined for your habits, what you're doing. Eric, great comment. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody.
So as we wrap up today, I want to take just a very quick moment and just say thank you. Thank you so much to our 6 panelists today. Thank you to Susan. Gotta love technology. She and I partnered in this, and Mary, of course, on our IT background side of it. Thank you to our 6 panelists. Thank you to my colleagues who partnered with us and partnered with me on this. As a reminder that this webinar was recorded. And if there are questions that you would like to have answered that weren't asked today, please email Susan or I behind the scenes. We'll make sure to work with the panelists to get those to you, and a copy of this recording. For those of you that don't know, we do have another webinar tomorrow. And it's our mental health webinar, just talking about getting back into that office, getting back into what used to be a safe space and how it might change now. And we're working with you'll hear from some experts on that topic tomorrow. So please join us tomorrow. If you have questions, let us know. But other than that, thank you all so, so much, and have a wonderful and safe day. We'll see you very soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. See ya.
Stay safe.
Take care. Thank you.